So we got some secret text messages from top Fox News personalities that just leaked. I believe the Daily Beast reported on it. And
this is from the Dominion lawsuit. This was part of Discovery. That's why we're getting
okay.
access
For those of you who don't know, Dominion is the voting machine company that they repeatedly libeled. And so they're taking them to court. And there's some juicy information here, man. What you learn from this is the public persona of a lot of these Fox hosts and what they actually think, totally different. Which, by the way, that means a lot because it's like they're not being honest with you.
Yes.
If you have the camera off, I will be saying the exact same political opinions as when the camera is on. For them, that's just not the case.
It's just a show.
They're playing a role.
No one has, I mean, what comes out to me, and then I'll read you some of the texts that are revealed here. No one has more contempt for the Republican voting base than these people.
Wow.
Because, I mean, ultimately, if you're willing to, you're willing to sit there night after night in prime time and straight up lie to them. Like, how could you possibly show more contempt for your viewing audience than to just knowingly lie to them night after night?
Give me the juicy details.
So here's the headline. Revealed Fox stars think Trumpworld figures are just as insane as you do. Behind the scenes of the shows where they were amplifying baseless claims that the 2020 presidential election was rigged, the star hosts, producers, and execs at Fox News were furiously messaging each other. They reacted in frustration and bewilderment to their own broadcast, calling the conspiracy theorists to which they were ceding airtime fucking lunatics, totally off the rails, and mind-blowingly nuts. They go on to talk about how this is part of that Dominion lawsuit. I think the New York Times sued in order to reveal this stuff and get it unsealed.
Now, do we know, are they referring to Mike Lindell and Sidney Powell and the people who were sort of leading the charge?
They talk about Sidney Powell specifically.
Of course.
I think they also talk some here about Rudy Giuliani. And, this was relevant for this court case, obviously, because it's a high bar that Dominion has to prove, right? They have to show, quote unquote, actual malice. And so they have to show, they knew they were lying and they intentionally did it otherwise. And so these texts are part of the discovery and part of the filing to make the case that, they knew exactly what they were doing. They did it otherwise. They called Sidney Powell an unguided missile, dangerous as hell, and poison. That's according to Tucker Carlson. Mike Lindell was called on the crazy train with no brakes, according to a senior vice president of programming for Fox Business. Rudy Giuliani, they called so full of shit, according to a Lou Dobbs Tonight producer. The concerns, they say, wormed their way up to the top of the food chain. According to the filing on November 19th, Rupert Murdoch watched as his network broadcast the entirety of a press conference held by Giuliani and Powell, who took turns spewing vitriolic remarks about the election. Murdoch then fired off a text, quote, really crazy stuff and damaging. So part of what is really interesting here, outside of the, nature of these texts revealing that Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham those are some of the top stars that were texting these sorts of things to each other. Is there was actually an effort from Rupert Murdoch and Suzanne Scott, who runs Fox News, to tamp down some of this stuff early on. So I think it was the New York Post published some sort of editorial that was like, this is all nonsense, that they need to move on. And there was an effort to get this widely distributed throughout the Fox News ecosystem. And then that was the very day that Fox actually called the election for Biden. They covered it, etc. And then, less than 24 hours later, Rupert Murdoch told Suzanne Scott, who was running Fox News, quote, getting creamed by CNN, guess our viewers don't want to watch it. And then in the days and weeks that followed, the filing states any effort to prevent false charges from spreading by the network became markedly less overt. In addition, there's one other juicy one from Tucker Carlson. He calls Trump a, quote, demonic force.
Tucker called Trump a demonic force. Oh, what? Yes. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And he tried to get a reporter fired. He was talking to Sean Hannity, telling Hannity to try to get this reporter, Jackie Heinrich, I think was her name, fired for accurately fact-checking a Trump tweet. And he lays out in his text messages that the reason is because they're getting killed, their ratings are down, the stock has gone down, this has been, quote, bad for the business. He said something direct like that. And so it's just totally blatant that they don't give a shit about what they're saying. They don't believe what they're saying. All they care about is what do people want to hear, what's good for the ratings, what's good for the stock, value what's good for business, not what's actually like accurate. I mean, not that any of that is a real surprise. But
no,
to
it
see
is. It is a surprise.
Blatantly is really quite something.
Here's why that is a surprise. What this shows is they are surfing the mood of their viewers, surfing the mood of the right-wing base. That's what they're doing. So they're not in control. They're not in charge. They're not telling you what they actually think with the news of the day.
Right.
They're like, what's going to get me clicks? What's going to get me eyeballs? What's going to get this like mob on my side of the people who are most incorrect in the country about this event, the 2020 election?
Right.
And man, that is so sad because that is like, in a weird way, this is exactly what we talk about when we say in new media, somebody has audience capture.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they see what's clicking, so they're going to lean into that, even if they don't really believe it's the most important thing, even if they don't really believe in what they're saying, let me just lean into it to get the clicks. And I find that fascinating because now flip the dynamic here for a second. When you look at like MSNBC, for example, are they like, what does the left wing base on Twitter think? We need to like be responsive to them. They're screaming for Medicare for all. We should really go lean into Medicare for all. There is none of that. They're just, they're doing the rah-rah Democratic Party line. But it would be nice if on the flip side, MSNBC and like so-called liberal media was actually responsive to genuine people on the left. I'm not saying like the Russiagate freaks in the Democratic Party who wanted them to be lied to.
Like,
I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm saying like they seem to be very responsive to like the real hardcore Trump people who are super online and super invested in this stuff. And like there is no responsiveness to the like actual online left in any serious way.
Yeah.
So,
well, part of it is, I mean, the base they were catering to Fox News here. I mean, this isn't a 10% of the party. This is 70% of the party you're talking about. And so when that's what the polls say. I know we debate this, but that's what the polls say. 70% believe this stuff. And so when they called the election for Biden and did like a little tiny bit of trying to say, hey guys, it's election fraud, like I don't know about all of this stuff, and their ratings tank, ultimately with this corporate media, the bottom line is the bottom line for them, and that was what ultimately won the day, even though you originally had Rupert Murdoch expressing some concerns of the direction of the network.
I can't imagine like Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity, who are the exact people listed in here, doing some segment assuming Biden's president or whatever, and then they get a bunch of crap on Twitter from like Cat Turd 2 or whatever his name is. They're like, bro, we're getting creamed, we got to reverse course. But that is literally what's going on. And they know, like, yeah, this is garbage, this is bullshit, we know it's not true, but like, what do you want me to do? It's such a weak beta mentality. Like, what are you doing? How are you going to be proud of your work when you retire in however many years? Like, you're going to look back and say, I just went like this all the time? What does my base want to hear? No, you got to say what you think is true, and you got to speak from your heart. You can't, like, just try to crowd surf the opinion of the most insane people in the country.
I mean, to take it a level deeper, it's kind of a logical conclusion of if you are a real like dyed-in-the-wool capitalist and this is what you believe, and you're like ultimately the only thing that matters is like that I'm winning in business, that I'm making more money and I'm successful, you can justify all sorts of like horrific behavior that way. And so I do think that there's like an ideological component here that allows them to justify their performances like, oh, well, I'm just putting on a show and this is my job and this is my business. And so I have to do what I need to do to be successful here.
I think they're thinking in terms of popularity and numbers. Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. But I'm just saying, I think the ideology that they all hold helps them to justify that without, like obviously they're here for clout and popularity and numbers, etc. But I think their ideology helps them to justify that and just feel nothing but good about chasing that.
Yeah, I'm amazed by it. See, this is my flaw. My flaw is I assume I take others at face value too much. So when they say X, my default assumption is they believe X unless I have like overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Yeah.
I should be more skeptical up front.
Yeah.
Like if I think, well, this person's too smart to really believe this thing.
Yeah.
I should lean into that. You know what I mean?
Well, this was a real pivot point for Sagar with regard to like,
right. Yeah, that's true.
Any sort of establishment Republican or like mainstream conservative media, because he knows these people are just like, I know you don't believe this shit.
There's no way Ted Cruz believes the election was stolen.
Well, and
literally
he
none.
knows, literal people who were colleagues and friends and whatever. He's like, would privately say, they did not believe it. And yet they felt like their job and their numbers and their clout and whatever depended on them telling the base whatever they wanted to hear. And so, yeah, it's disgusting. It's shameful. It's absolutely shameful.
All these people are colossal cucks.
I wonder what is going to happen in the lawsuit. It's going to be very interesting to see. Because I have no idea. I'm not a legal analyst. But it's a pretty compelling case that it's like, they literally said, they tried this election thing, then they said, we're getting creamed by CNN. I guess the viewers don't want to hear it. And then they changed direction. When they all know that what they're saying
it's so hard to prove libel or slander or defamation in this country. It is so hard. So I would be surprised if it gets anywhere. But, you know, in terms of the court of public opinion, anybody who knows all the facts, this is amazing. It's just evidence, it's proof that these people are dishonest actors. Yeah. And that's nail in the coffin type stuff. Yeah. Because, again, my default assumption was, people believe what they say unless there's overwhelming evidence otherwise. Well, this is the overwhelming evidence otherwise. That you can't even take what they're saying at face value, you know? Mm-hmm. So if I'm doing a segment responding to Tucker or Sean Hannity and they're saying X, Y, or Z, it's like, I'm not even responding to a real person with a real argument. Yeah. It's like, they'd be watching my segment going, yeah, he's right. You know what I mean? True. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. True. All right, guys, there you have it.
Tucker thinks Trump is a demonic force.
That's something. Because publicly he's coddling that ball sack all day long. He really is. It's so sad. It's so sad. All right, guys, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Trying to get to 1 million subs. Love to get there soon. So hook a brother up. Click that little bell icon so you get a notification every single time a new video drops. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.